What's up, you guys? Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulWrestling.com. You can go there and get more wrestling news than any other wrestling website in the world. If you like MMA and boxing, hit up Fightful.com, or we have subsites for each one of those as well. What I've started to do with some of our columns is bring them to you in video form. And this one is a very special one by Brandon Howard Thurston. If you are not following him, you should be. He's one of our best feature writers, one of the best writers in wrestling, period. And he has put together an extensive piece that is about to go live on FightfulWrestling.com. It will headline the site, and we're going to take a deep look at it. Now, of course, you can follow that link in the description below when it goes live in minutes, actually, after I'm broadcasting this. But I'm going to read it to you. We're going to talk about it. We're going to give you Brandon Howard's words in video form. Howard writes, "In an era where WWE's recognition towers so far above that of any other wrestling company, it's hard to get an idea of how the popularity of the industry leader is trending. Arguments online can be anecdotal echo chambers. A study of WWE's TV viewership alone is complicated by the notion that all TV viewership is on the decline, and the product is easier than ever to follow through media and other than linear TV. Even a review of company finances is skewed by the guaranteed and escalating TV rights fees WWE receives from broadcast partners like USA Network parent NBC Universal, which have exploded even as viewership of Raw and SmackDown have declined." We see a graph here of the late McMahon paradox. Another on TV performance from a viewership standpoint being mixed. We had the live plus SmackDown national rating, the average for the quarter. Lots of graphs here and stuff to kind of get you caught up on that Brandon has posted. He says the brand split and move of SmackDown airing live on Tuesday improved SmackDown's viewership. Since then, viewership of both Raw and SmackDown have deteriorated worse than the top 25 cable networks. Between Q1 2015 and Q1 2018, Raw's ratings fell 24%. Over that period, USA Network fared worse, dropping 30%. The top 25 cable networks fared better, though, only dropping 14%. Between the same 3-year period, SmackDown fell only 4%. That was before the brand split and moving to air live on Tuesdays, which began in Q3 2016 and actually improved viewership. Between Q3 2016 and Q3 2018, SmackDown fell by 12% in the brand split era. Over that period, USA Network held up better, dropping 7%. The top 25 cable networks also declined by 7%. This data supports the notion that WWE viewership is on the decline more quickly than television overall. However, high rankings for the programs remain steady. A frequently asked question is, what is viewership from streaming platforms like Hulu and Sling counted in these viewership measurements? Yes, streaming broadcasts of programs like Raw and SmackDown contain a signal that can be detected by Nielsen equipment. The data from Showbuzz Daily referenced here, source Nielsen reports. But what about YouTube and Facebook clips? These signals would likely not be detected in short clips of those programs that are available on YouTube and Facebook and are largely viewed on mobile devices or desktops, though they might be picked up if viewers watch the clips on a TV. According to data sourced by Showbuzz Daily, both programs remain highly ranked compared to competition from other cable shows on their given night, as you can see here. Each hour of Raw is still ranked about where it was a few years ago. SmackDown has benefited from live broadcasts with an exclusive roster due to that brand split. Also beneficial was the move away from Thursday to Tuesday and the move from Sci-Fi to the much higher profile USA Network. Likely due to those factors, SmackDown is ranked more highly now than it was a few years ago. Maybe there are factors other than a genuine decline in popularity contributing to the disproportionate loss in viewership. After all, the company vigorously pushes its storylines, characters, and brands online in various forms of social media, its official website, and with free online video. To give the benefit of the doubt, it's possible popularity isn't decreasing, and the fact is merely that more fans are engaging with the company through other forms of media. Furthermore, stable rating or rankings suggest WWE's popularity is stable, though not increasing. In an increasingly complex wrestling industry that connects with and generates revenue from consumers in ever more diverse ways, we consider TV viewership just one piece of the puzzle that makes up the total picture. Second point is that ticket sales trend mostly downward and are barely profitable. As you can see, the Q3 2018 highlights of live event attendance from those key performance indicators. Average paid ticket sales show a consistent decline across each quarter for the last 3 years. That's true for both international events and the more regular North American business. WWE runs many of those same venues in the US and Canada year after year, and that data accounts for main roster events only and includes both televised and non-televised events. Data collected from Wrestling Observer Newsletter and CageMatch.net suggests Q4 2018 might be up over prior year's Q4s. However, this data showed flat attendance in Q3 when WWE's actual reporting showed attendance down. Average attendance for NXT events is also down. The discrepancy in the graph below in Q4 comparisons, however, is driven by a European tour that was not repeated in the following year. Those averages include smaller Florida shows like Largo that are run on a consistent basis, as well as NXT's playing of larger venues domestically and internationally. Through the first 9 months of the year, the total event revenue for 2018, $5.8 million, was just above that of 2017's $5.1 million and well above 2016's total of $4.1 million. The financial numbers account for all WWE events, both main roster and NXT, that we show you below in these graphs. It's worth noting as attendance slide, WWE's ticketing business is flirting with being a money loser. In Q3, the segment reported a loss of $1 million on revenues of $27 million. Considering Q4 2017 was also barely profitable, it'll be interesting to see if Q4 2018 is profitable for the segment. The company will report on February 7th. This is the case even as ticket prices increased over the last several years. Even when adjusting for inflation, a ticket sold in 2011 was on average $13 more expensive in 2017. NXT's ticket prices increased more rapidly as well. In January to September comparisons available, the average NXT ticket price rose from $31 in 2016 to $41 in 2017 to $44 in 2018. Again, that's cross events both in the Florida Loop and the national and international tour. Ticket sales are WWE's oldest business and long have been considered an indicator of popularity. While it's no longer the company's most important segment, its ability to sell tickets to fans is suggestive of wider interest. Overall, considering declines in attendance across time, a study of WWE's live event businesses contributes slightly to the idea that popularity has waned in recent years. Still, this information can be taken into account with other metrics that give a fuller picture. Number 3 point, online merchandise sales stable, venue merchandise sales down. You see some of the WWE revenue from e-commerce and venue merchandise in the graphs. The first 9 months of the year comparisons show online merchandise sales are up 7% in 2018 compared to 2016. Merchandise sales were higher online than at venues in most quarters since the beginning of 2016, the exception being Q2, which benefits from high merchandise sales at and around WrestleMania. As discussed above, the attendance is down somewhat, but total attendance in a 9-month comparison is actually only down 1% in 2018 compared to 2016. At any rate, we can adjust for changes in attendance by dividing venue merchandise revenue by total attendance. In that case, venue merchandise dollar per ticket sold is down slightly across quarterly comparisons. It's also down in the first 9 months of 2018 at $11.98, by 6% in the first 9 months of 2016 at $12.76. Data on merchandise sales, particularly venue merchandise sales, slightly supports the notion that WWE popularity has decreased. Sales online, though, aren't trending downward over the same time period. We're up in Q1, flat in Q2, down in Q3. Queries worldwide for WWE and related subjects have declined consistently in each quarter since a peak in 2016. That's point number 4. The Google web searches have declined since 2016. The same has been true of searches coming from the US, WWE's home market. Google Trends doesn't provide any absolute numbers of searches, but instead shows data on a scale standardized to 100. According to Google, this data is adjusted for overall volume in searches in general and should account for the overall increase in use of Google searches over these years. This data supports the notion that WWE interest has declined somewhat since 2016, both in the US and worldwide. Worldwide searches haven't been this low since 2005. US searches, however, were still higher in 2018 than they were in the years 2009, 10, and 11. Point 5, WWE Network subscribers continue to grow year over year, as you see in the key performance indicators. Subscriber growth for the WWE Network continues to rise in each and every quarterly comparison throughout the now 5-year history of the subscription video streaming service that airs all the company's pay-per-view events. Reliable projections the company provides between quarters make subscriber growth predictable to investors. WWE projected Q4 2018's average paid subscriber number will be 1.56 million, again up from the Q4 of the year prior. 5 years into the life of the network, it's not clear the subscriber metric reflects a growth in annual popularity. Certainly, it does reflect a disproportionate and expected peak of interest around the time of WrestleMania, which occurred in Q2 of each of these last 3 years, with subscribers reaching their high point in that quarter and declining afterward. With the streaming service being reliant on technology like broadband access and streaming devices, it's likely those technologies have yet to sufficiently saturate markets that significantly affect subscriber totals. While broadband is still relatively normal in the US, UK, and Canada, access is still emerging in places like India. Even in WWE's Western markets, consumers are probably still growing more accepting to the streaming technology needed for the network. Due to the emerging technology involved, it's doubtful WWE Network is a strong measure of the product popularity. Nonetheless, interest in the product is strong enough that the network is still growing its subscriber base and posting consistent year-over-year growth. It may become such an indicator after we see a quarter with a domestic average paid sub number lower than that of the same quarter of the year prior. WWE Network's growing subscriber totals don't support the notion that WWE popularity has declined in recent years and slightly supports an opposite notion. Point 6, free online video viewership continues growing strongly. Time spent viewing WWE video on various online platforms like YouTube and Facebook continues to grow with no end in sight. WWE continues to be one of the most popular channels globally on YouTube. Video views, different from time spent viewing, continues to grow too. Both metrics have grown at double-digit rates of percent from quarter to quarter. The money WWE receives from this kind of consumption is low compared to that of traditional TV from the likes of USA and Fox. The full year of 2017 was the last time the company reported on its digital media segment. The segment reported $34.5 million in revenue, a figure that includes YouTube money, but also sales of advertising on WWE.com. YouTube revenue is now more obscured in the other media segment, along with larger pieces of revenue like TV rights to reality programming like Total Divas, Total Bellas, Ms. and Mrs., as well as money from the company's deal with the Saudi Arabian government. It should be noted that WWE received a rights fees from Facebook for seasons of Mixed Match Challenge, likely worth several million. Growth in hours spent viewing and in views of WWE content online may support the notion that the product interest is actually growing and not support an argument that the interest is decreasing. It's plausible, however, that this data is actually more reflective of a habitual change in how wrestling fans are consuming that wrestling content in recent years. The number 7 point, social media followers continue to grow below the rate of Facebook activity, but above the rate of Twitter. To report its social media follower totals, WWE sums its followers on all branded accounts, as well as the accounts belonging to talent. So these followers are non-unique, as many of them are repeat followers who follow more than one WWE-associated account and are no doubt counted numerous times. Having an ever-growing roster of talent might help these totals as well. Whatever the case, the company continues to inch towards the 1 billion follower milestone. Facebook growth for WWE largely stalled in 2018. Twitter follower growth is slightly stronger, and WWE's growth on other platforms not broken out, but probably largely on Instagram, is the strongest. Even as WWE's growth on Facebook slows, its rate of follower growth is mostly below the rate in the number of people using Facebook in general. Much of Facebook's overall growth in this metric, however, is outside the US, WWE's home market. On Twitter, home of niches both fun and horrifying, WWE outpaces the platform overall. Even when monthly active users on Twitter fell by 3% in Q3 2018, WWE's follower count was up by 1%. WWE's performance on social media, another emerging global technology, doesn't support the notion that the company's popularity is decreasing, although stalled growth on Facebook isn't indicative of a brand on the upswing. Disproportionate growth on Twitter may somewhat offset the concern about Facebook, but with Twitter being a less active platform than Facebook by about 7 times, arguably not completely. In conclusion, we have looked at 7 different metric types thinking about WWE popularity. Brandon went through each one and asked, does it support the notion of an increase or a decrease in popularity? The number one thing the first thing that Brandon looked at was TV viewership, a decrease. Raw has fell harder in recent years than the top 25 cable channels. SmackDown was boosted by the brand split in July 2016, but also fell harder than the top 25 cable since then. While WWE TV viewership should also be viewed with a comparison to the rest of TV landscape, the "but all TV is down" objection doesn't hold old weight under the data here. The number 2 point was ticket sales, and that's a decrease. Paid attendance to the main roster events show a consistent downward trend. Even NXT attendance is trending downward, although rising ticket prices have allowed NXT live event revenue to increase at the same time. Meanwhile, the live event segment for the entire company struggles to be profitable in some quarters. Number 3, merchandise sales. Brandon says that's a slight decrease. Venue merchandise sales are down somewhat, even when adjusting for the decrease in attendance. Online merchandise sales seem to be doing fine, though. Number 4, web searches. Brandon has that at a decrease. Google web searches are consistently down over the last 3 years, both worldwide and in the US. Number 5 is the WWE Network subscriptions, which indicate an increase in popularity. Without context about growing consumer acceptance of subscription streaming services, the consistent year-over-year increase in subscriptions in each of the 4 quarters suggests an increase in popularity. The free viewership or video viewership, point number 6, that's a big increase. Views and time spent on free WWE online content is definitely increasing, as one would expect to find if the company's product was genuinely becoming more popular. This trend may also reflect a shift in consumer behavior with regard to new media. And number 7, an increase for social media followers. Without context, WWE's growth on new media platforms is increasing, yet the growth or lack of growth on Facebook is concerning. These are the 7 best metrics to Brandon's knowledge to study to get a read on WWE's current popularity. While the company certainly isn't showing any signs of becoming so unpopular that it's any kind of immediate financial concern, Brandon believes the data here reflects a genuine but moderate decrease in popularity over the last 3 years. It looks like the company is in better shape financially than ever, however. Big new TV rights deals signed with NBC Universal and Fox Sports basically guarantee the company is increasing revenues for the next 5 years. A shift in media landscape to put increasing value on live content like Raw and SmackDown will keep the company strong, even if ticket and merchandise sales fall. Supplanting the old pay-per-view business for subscription streaming business also allows for more consistent and predictable finances. Why WWE's popularity has slipped is a more contentious question, and one with less data to argue with. Brandon would argue that the factors are largely a lack of star creation, programming that feels inauthentic, underdeveloped characters, inconsistent storylines, and the aforementioned fostering a lack of goodwill with fans, the remainder of whom, in another paradox, remain ardent and willing to spend more per capita on company products. All of this is perpetuated by the company's aforementioned fiscal security, which allows executives to avoid an economic incentive to enact changes that might increase popularity and ultimately even further improve the company finances. I encourage you guys to check this article out. Take a look at it yourself. Brandon does great stuff, as you see here. He's been writing about the pro wrestling business since 2015. independent pro wrestler, wrestling trainer, and a co-host of the podcast WrestleNomics Radio. If you're doubting what he has to say, his partner in WrestleNomics Radio, Chris Harrington, was hired by AEW to handle a lot of this type of analysis and business stuff, quite frankly. Leave us a thumbs up on this video, subscribe, share this article. We'll bring you more stuff like this. Until next time, my friends, visit FightfulWrestling.com. We're out.